Lee Engert touched the lives of thousands of Rittner students over the course of his 35-year career as a teacher, mentor, and coach at Rittner High School. Best known throughout the Rittner community as a baseball coach, Engert finished his 17-year tenure with 2 state championships and 14 Suburban North titles under his belt. He had a career record of 329 wins and 102 losses, and coached 2 future Major League Baseball players. Although Engert is often remembered for his success in baseball, he also coached football and basketball. In the classroom, he taught biology, driver's education, health, and physical education. He sponsored Rittner's Student Council and was also assistant principal for 2 years. Former students and players agree that he didn't just teach them the basics of biology or the fundamentals of the game. He taught them life lessons in responsibility, self-respect, and sportsmanship. Engert had a lasting impression on his students because he cared about them and wanted to help shape them into men and women of honor and integrity. Engert is no stranger to Hall of Fame ceremonies, as he is also a member of the Valparaiso University Athletic Hall of Fame, the Amateur Baseball Hall of Fame, and the Missouri High School Coaches Hall of Fame. At the start of the new millennium, Rittner High School celebrated Engert's outstanding career by naming the baseball field in his honor. At alumni events, his name often comes up in conversation as Rittner graduates discuss the positive impact he has had on their lives. It is only fitting that Lee Engert take his place in Rittner history as this year's Lifetime Achievement Award recipient.
Ladies and gentlemen, Lifetime Achievement Award recipient, Coach Lee. This will be like a chalk talk. I wish it was, really. I really miss teaching and coaching. And what an honor this is for me this evening. You know, to work at the same place for 35 years. And then be honored to go in their Hall of Fame. It's something that only the good Lord would bring about. And I would like to thank Ron Hunt and Jack Tipton and Bill Wessler for recommending me and for the committee to select me and all the efforts that went into that. Some of you wrote letters. I have those at home. It brings a tear to my eye to realize the little things that you still remember. You know, the first baseball clinic I ever talked about, the title was Little Things Win Championships. And as I look around this evening to see the many former student athletes that were here, boy, there are a lot of champions out there. And Rittner should be proud of this. You know, so often we remember the negative things, but it's the positive things that keep us going. And at this time, I'd like to introduce my wife, Joy, our 3 daughters, Renee, Colette, and Suzette, and Colette's husband, Rob, is here, But you know, my wife was a jewel. There's no way I could have been up here without her help. And I really appreciate that. You know, Steve Trouth a while ago mentioned Miss Ray. Well, I would like to talk about some of the colleagues that I work with here at Rittner. Boy, oh boy, was it great. And Miss Ray and Miss Lovelace were two of the better teachers in the building. But the athletes didn't really enjoy it because they made them work. And I used to tell them, man, work and listen, do what they tell you to do. When you get to college, that's when you'll really appreciate it. And it's amazing down through the years how many of those athletes came back and said, hey, Coach, you were really right. And it's the effort that we put out will be rewarded in a very, very positive way. As I look back at the colleagues, you know, the administrators here, and Mr. Koslow was just outstanding. I learned from him about the stock market, if you can believe that, Mr. Sullivan's okay? And just visiting with him about a lot of things other than just education. Players used to say, Mr. Engert, he knows everything that's going on. And you know what? He did. Okay? And he really worked in such a quiet way. And Mr. Chapman and Coach Moore was my mentor. My heavens, how he helped me so much. The three of us were fishing buddies with Coach Doney and Coach Reeves. And a lot of times we would reminisce about our athletes. And we really thought that they realized how much fun we had as coaching. And that's what Mr. Westbrook mentioned earlier, the fun that we get out of it. And we sort of thought that the athletes realized if we could have that much fun, they could too. And they joined us. And it really made a big difference in the way the athletic program really thrived. And you know, I never, in all the coaching, and I really enjoyed sophomore football too. I remember Coach Moore wanted me to go to the varsity, but I liked working with the young sophomore kids because that's how you help to mold their life a little bit, really. But it was amazing the little things that we could get them to achieve. And once they found out it wasn't just the physical ability, it was the mental ability that went along with it that made them successful. And you know, not only in athletics, but in life, you have to have the total program, not just part of it, really. Our physical education program that we had, we got along so well with the women. And when I would tell coaches from other schools the different things that we could do together, they were shocked. I mean, the camaraderie that we had amongst the two groups. We even started a co-educational physical education program. We had archery, we had golf, we even had fly fishing, and the girls could participate and the boys together in those classes. We even had a dance program. Coach Doney's wife was part of that. Dorothy Heineke was part of a ladies' physical education program at the time. And Coach Doney and I were concerned about the dance program on a co-ed basis. And after we talked to the young men a little bit, well, we kind of analyzed them. And man, we were shocked in a positive way, the way the young men learned to respect the opposite sex. And it became such an enjoyable thing that you'd hear the boys talk about it, how they really enjoyed that. And you know, that carried on all through life. My oldest daughter today was just telling me how much she enjoyed her husband, and she enjoyed dancing so much. And it brings a camaraderie that's there. You know, I'd like to talk, in 1961, I believe, in 62, Mrs. Kramer and I were the sponsors of the Student Council. Shirley Templemeyer, yes, Shirley Templemeyer, was the president of the class. Cliff Crafton was the treasurer, and Bernice, can't remember her last name, was the secretary. And you know, we went down to Crystal City. Dave Crystal City was the president of the student councils in St. Louis. So we went. Oh, that's what they wanted to do. So we went. Bill Bradley happened to be the president of Crystal City's student council. He was lecturing to the whole group, but I really remember two elderly ladies that were representing another school sat in front of me, and Bill Bradley, in the way he was talking to the group, had these two ladies crying. Bill Bradley, if you remember, was an outstanding basketball player up in New York. He was also a senator for years. I thought at one time he'd maybe become president of the United States, but he quit up there. I wonder why. And but yet on the way coming back, these three students said, "Mr. Engert, we would like to be student council of the Missouri next year." And I thought, holy cow. So I mentioned it to Dr. Chapman, and he said, he was hesitant, but he said, well, what do you want to have them do? And I said, well, let's have them draw up a program. So they started working on it, and after about the fifth or sixth time, they came to me, and they had it perfect. My heavens. And I told Dr. Chapman, there's no way we could say no, because they have it well planned. And they became the president of the student councils in the state of Missouri. That was the same group that started the foreign exchange program. And if I remember correctly, just last year, there's a picture in the reporter of Jerry Nolan standing with the foreign exchange program. And I think they were celebrating the 50th year. Isn't that great? I can still remember the name of the first student exchange program exchange student we had. Ennio Scudiero from Italy was his name. I even remember the family he stayed with, really. And what a great experience. And then our students at Rittner could go abroad and learn their culture and their education. And it's still going on after 50 years. Man alive. I must be getting old. Not really, you're only as old as you feel, but don't put the steel sign on because I couldn't run. You know, it reminds me, we could talk a little bit maybe about athletics. I never got a hit, never threw a pitch, and anything. All I was a gentleman that encouraged the players to do their best. And that's exactly what they did. You know, in our league, to win a league championship 14 years in a row was the greatest accomplishment that they could do. You know, I always looked at it not as a team, we were a program. And the program ran from the 9th grade up to the 12th grade. The seniors helped the coaches, and by the way, Coach Beckman is here tonight. He was the first coach that he and I worked together here at Rittner. But the seniors helped us coach the younger players. And I called that player-to-player communication. And so often players will listen to their colleagues, maybe sometimes more than they will the coach. So they were helping each other. I can remember many a time I had Jerry Royce when they had to do their running around the track. When they were finished, he would run with the sophomore and junior, and he would be talking to them about the really fundamentals of pitching and all the attributes that really go with it. And I think so often we lose sight of that. And even in a classroom, a good student can help another student. We call it tutoring, don't we? And it's not something you look down at. It's something that you look up to. And the more a person that's doing the tutoring talks, the better he learns it himself. This is what I'm talking about, chalk talks. It was 28 hours we spent in the classroom talking about baseball, really. And pitchers and catchers met together, and first baseman and third baseman met together because the things that they did were so uniform, really. And it's amazing how players down through the years would call me and say, hey, coach, do you have any of those booklets around? I'm coaching baseball with young kids, and it'll help me as a guideline a little bit, and which is a real compliment to our program and to the players. You know, we were fortunate in 66 and 67 to win the state championships, but you know what? There were 7 consecutive games that overlapped from 66 to 67. Now those are consecutive, 7 consecutive shutouts. And you only achieve a shutout, not because of good pitching. You have to have good defense that goes with that too. And here again, that's a highlight for a team and a program that they can be really proud of. You know, in 66, Miss Mabel McAllister was in charge of elementary education. I worked for her 2 years. The first 2 years I taught 6th grade. Would have stayed there if I could have coached. She wanted me to be a principal, but I wanted to coach as well and go up to the high school. And we were playing in Washington, Missouri, and that's where she and her sister were from. And we needed a place that was quarterfinals in the state tournament. We needed a place to eat. So I called her, oh yeah, I got a place, and it was a private area. Man, it wasn't a restaurant or anything, but it was kind of a home background. And so she set it all up for us. But before we went to that game, 4 players, 2 juniors and 2 seniors. Now this is 1966. I think I'm right, Bob Todd. He's out there and he's the captain. But these 4 players came up to me and said, hey coach, we'd like to take our musical instruments on the bus. In which I'm for extracurricular activities. The good musicians were also good baseball players, really. And man, I was kind of shocked and looked at them. I said, I'll tell you what. I said, we can take them, but if we lose, they stay in the cases. They don't come out. That was the agreement we made. Well, fortunately, we won, and you're looking at a guy that was singing right with them. And that night, after the game, we went to eat, and I talked to the players about they represented themselves and their mom and dad and Rittner and our baseball program when they go in there and behave themselves. Okay, so we went in to eat, and there was 2 elderly ladies there, and the one lady came over and said to me, could you tell me who's in charge of these boys? And I said, yes, ma'am. I said, I am. What can I help you with? And she said, I want to tell you how polite and respectful those young men really are. And what a compliment to Rittner School District. And so often we don't emphasize that part of it enough, the positive. You know, my wife and my 3 daughters and I would like to tell you, thanks a lot. We appreciate it, and God bless.
Coaches in their own right to come forward. Mr. Ron Hunt, Mr. Bill Wessler, would you come forward and help make the presentation to Coach Engert?
These 2 gentlemen started with me when they were in 8th and 9th grade.